I'd always been an artist. I mean, there's no question about it since I can ever remember. I am from Rhode Island. I was born here in Pawtucket, and I grew up in a house only about maybe half a dozen blocks from here. I left when I was 17 to go in the service. I was actually in the Navy. The European War ended when I was in boot camp, so they sent me to the Pacific. I was a medic. I thought I'd never return, but as you can see, it worked out quite differently. Each day is, for me, is a surprise because, you know, I walk in the studio every day and wonder, like, okay, what is going to excite me today? And also, it gives a great deal of meaning, you know, to my life. The ability to work the way I do in my studio right now is a real gift. And I know how fortunate I am I'm able to do that. I came home from New York one weekend and somebody told me that there was a gentleman in Rhode Island who was looking for a restaurant designer. I met the fellow and I liked him so much and very, very creative, and I thought at least temporarily I would take that job, and it was so easy for me and so good, and I enjoyed it so much that I decided to just stay here, make my career here, got married. And then I also realized that this was a good day job for me, being a designer. So I thought, you know, it's not a bad life. Doing work I loved every day, designing. And then in the evening, even when I was raising my family, I would put the kids to bed, you know, and afterwards just paint and draw until 2 o'clock in the morning for many years. MND is Morris Nathanson Design. I design restaurants and hotels primarily, yeah. Over the years, whenever possible, we tried to include in our design original artwork as much as we could. We did so much work for the Euro Disney project in France. We designed all of their 11 restaurants at the Buffalo Bill Wild West show, and so we've actually included the work of several local muralists, ceramic people, printmakers. Much of the artwork we did went on the Royal Caribbean cruise ship lines, on the various ships. It goes on and on. And even though I am just now retiring from the office, my son who's taking over will continue to do that. I realize that in the past I've been spending too much time incubating ideas before I would do a drawing or a painting. And now what I do is, as soon as the brush or the pen hits the paper, I just go. I just go with it. And that's very, you know, liberating. But now lately I have really enjoyed doing my wood assemblages. I like starting with an old piece of wood or an old rusted piece of something I would find and create a story around it. One of the things that really encouraged me to do this is a few years ago, we were able to design and develop an old mill building right next to us, which became Riverfront Lofts. And then later on, when construction started, I would go there and deal with the old wooden floors that were torn up and pieces of window casement. And with this, I was able to start my whole series of wood assemblages. One of the best commissions I received was to do the assemblage in the lobby of Riverfront Loft. And I really, really enjoy that. It's so physical also. If I want to move around and get the exercise and feel the energy and the juices flowing, then I'll do my assemblages, you know. I'll work with the wood and work in my workshop, and that works for me. I'm looking forward to possibly another commission where I could do something on a very large scale. I would like to spend more time with printmaking. I'd like to develop that skill even more, which I came by, you know, quite late in my life. This is my latest type of block printing. Japonica Street is where I grew up, where my house was. It's the reason I make such a fuss about it is because Route 95 took it down, and for my entire life, I'm so sensitive about properties that are lost through eminent domain or communities that are just wiped out. So Japonic has sort of become a theme. It's all Pawtucket. Japonic is all Pawtucket. Because of my background, I've always thought of art being closely associated with labor, working with your hands and your brain. And because this area of Pawtucket has a very strong industrial working background, blue-collar background, I felt it was a very comfortable place for artists to live, certainly for me. And I was able to do that when we moved our office to Pawtucket because I was able to buy an old mill, convert the old mill, and create several lofts where that's just what we did, which I would never have known about had I not worked on projects in Soho. I had a gallery there and I was designing restaurants there when this wonderful thing was happening in Soho, when the artists were moving in and they were taking over the old sweatshops. When I went to the councilman of Pawtucket, he suggested that these old mills would make great lofts. They didn't know what a loft was. We had to convince them that artists were small businesses. And we got that message across, and it worked, and it's still working. And I think that's something that makes Rhode Island, very unique. I get very energized when we talk about what art does for the community and its contribution to it. There is absolutely no doubt that my greatest peeve, my greatest anger is directed toward the education community. I find it so sad how delinquent they are, how they do not encourage creativity in the classes, how the arts are considered something very irrelevant. This was not the Pawtucket I grew up in when I was a kid. I know that when I went to Tolman High School, for example, teachers we had emphasized the arts, encouraged us. I don't see that happening now. I am across the street from the high school I went to. We have lofts here, all creative people. I don't know why the school does not take advantage of that. Nobody has to cross the street, and we'd all like to. I think that's sad. That's very sad. I think the more we're involved in the community, the more we can protect our own destiny and make it better and easier, for the next generation of creative people. And the best way that artists can help the community is by helping each other. And if the artists don't do it for other artists and ourselves, then who will? We should do more of that. I mean, just look around here. Before we came here, these were empty buildings. And now almost all these spaces are occupied with creative people doing their work in these wonderful loft spaces with high windows, high ceilings, wooden floors. It doesn't get much better.